How do you think India's power is in the UN at the moment, sir?
Well, India is doing well in terms of clout in the UN. But as you know, we have been wanting to reform the Security Council. And we merit to be a permanent member of the Security Council. But that has not happened. And to understand that, we have to go back a little bit into history.
What is the possibility? Like, what does a country need to be in the Security Council?
Well, let me put it this way. I mean, what I say might be controversial. You know of the so-called G4, that is India, Germany, Japan, and Brazil. These four countries have formed the G4. And the G4 has been asking for a reform of the Security Council so that the number of permanent members is raised from now 5 to a higher figure. Because we also have to take into account Africa. 56 or 57 member states, more than 1 billion, human beings. Now, let me give you a little bit of background there. Years ago, probably 2004, 2005, at the time of the General Assembly, which means in New York, September, it's meeting now, a meeting was held at the summit level between these four countries which are now G4 plus South Africa. And it was decided that they will form what is called a G5 and announce that to the world the next day by way of a press conference seeking reform of the Security Council to include the G5 as permanent members. So the press conference was arranged next day in the morning, but South Africa did not show up. Then a phone call came. South Africa said, sorry, unless there is a resolution by the OAU, African Union, saying that OAU designates South Africa as the permanent member, candidate, they don't want to get into it. In other words, they had second thoughts. That is why the G5 became G4.
G4.
Now, the problem with that G4 or G5 approach, let me put it this way. You see, you take Japan. China will never agree. And China has a veto power. You take Germany. Italy will never agree. I was ambassador in Italy.
Why is that?
I retired in 2000. I was there 97 to 2000.
But what's the issue with Italy?
No, the issue with Italy, this was not an issue with Italy at that time. But what was happening is that Italy had started the permanent representative, what is called a coffee clubs, open. So permanent representatives will come or their deputies. And the main point of discussion was to prevent Germany from becoming a permanent member, because Italy thinks Italy also is equally qualified. Now look at the contradiction. Imagine adding Germany and Italy. So how many from the small area called Western Europe?
4.
Okay. Look at their population. Look at the world population. Okay, now leave out Italy. Even Germany, that is 3 from Western Europe. Does it make sense?
Nope.
Okay. Now, Brazil. Well, some countries in Latin America, Argentina, or even Mexico may think, well, why not us? You know what I mean? So none of these G4 countries has support, endorsement from their region. Okay. Now, coming to India specific, it is true that, statements have been made by United States, by UK, France, and USSR saying that India should be there. But, sometimes they make the statement because they want something from us. They want us to buy something from them. Things like that. But let's look at how is the charter changed? After all, the charter has to change. Charter says only these 5 are the permanent members. So articles of the charter have to change. Now, how do you change it? To change the charter, an amendment, you need to pass a resolution in the General Assembly, where, incidentally, there is no veto, but 2/3 majority. And after the resolution has been passed, it has to be ratified again by 2/3 of the member states, including the P5. In other words, if one of the P5 doesn't ratify it, the process stops. Okay? Now, what I would have thought, a better way would have been, without announcing our candidature, or that of Japan, or that of Germany, or that of Brazil, India should have used the non-aligned global south and said, this structure of the Security Council, and let me at this point explain how the P5 came into being. You see, the United Nations was the idea of Ferdinand Roosevelt, FDR. So even before the war ended, he had thought of it, and his Secretary of State was drafting the charter. Now, it occurred to Roosevelt that when the war ends, there should be 4 policemen to keep law and order in the global village. So he thought of United States, USSR, United Kingdom, and China. Now, China was at that time led by Chiang Kai-shek. People's Republic of China came much later. We are talking about 43, 44.
Mm-hmm.
So, when this was, naturally he had to check with the UK and USSR. In fact, as we know, USA, USSR and UK, they were the big 3. They had their summit meetings. So Churchill was scandalized. China should be there. But he knew that he cannot make Roosevelt change his mind. So he said he would agree to China provided France is in. Mind you, France at that time was not even fully liberated. Roosevelt agreed. And when it came to Stalin, he was even more scandalized that China should be there. He said, an Asiatic power sitting in judgment over us, Europeans. But again, he also knew that he cannot make FDR changed his mind. So he got other concessions in regard to the charter and other things. That is why he agreed. So this is the origin of
The big five.
P5 in 44, 45. Now how many years now? How many changes? Decolonization, so many other changes. So it is high time that the Security Council is reformed. It should have happened yesterday. So, and India merits to be in. So my view is that if we had done what we discussed, that is just get the General Assembly pass a resolution, and after it is passed and ratified, because P5 will find it very embarrassing to stand in the way. Then, when it is time for the election to take place, India should announce its candidature. And India has a high standing. Whenever we get elected to either take a sock or anything else, we get more than the minimum required. We are among the first or second to be elected. You know what I mean? So that would have been the better way of seeking it. But anyway, let's see.
While we are the voice of the global south, sir, but China won't be on the consensus of having us.
No, that is precisely why I said don't ask for India to be in. India will be in when, after the ratification, General Assembly votes. And once the General Assembly votes, that's the end of it. There is no veto there. China can, use its diplomatic clout with others, don't vote for India. But nevertheless, India will get it. You see? So, there's no veto there.
Diary of a Publisher. Here we don't just talk, we explore, question, and push beyond the ordinary. And if you're ready to see things from a fresh perspective, you're at the right place. Make sure to subscribe. We're just scratching the surface, and the next conversation might just change how you see the world.